Councilman Harrington is also here, so he'll be here in just a few minutes. With that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward with the work session agenda. The first item on the agenda is a presentation by Mr. Shannon Jones with ALDOT. It's a discussion regarding the acceptance of the Alabama 21 and US 431 connector.
Thank you, Mayor. I will intro that in for you. Shannon Jones, who is Shannon, I might apologize if you can correct me, he is the region engineer, sub-region engineer out of Anniston City, which the region office is in Birmingham. So I won't go any further than to say that Shannon is also the former district engineer for the Anniston area. And ALDOT has approached in having some discussions with the city. Now that work is complete, signed off on related to US 431 and all its connections and such, and its designators. And they've approached the city for the city to consider accepting what is known as generically as the Alabama 21 431 connector. So we've had a couple of conversations, and there's been some other discussions. There had to be some things cleared up related to some land that was in the county, but that has been done. So Mr. Jones is here to speak to you tonight about the consideration for that acceptance. And then any questions you may have. Shannon?
Yeah, I'm Shannon Jones. I am the area engineer located in Alexander City, but I was in Anniston County district administrator for 20 years up until 2019. So I'm familiar with the Eastern Bypass as well as y'all are. And what happened is whenever we received land from the DOD, we have already walked through a process to give the city of Anniston what you would call Summerall Gate relocation. We call it the Flying J, goes by Lowe's and connects back into the fort. So the state actually purchased or went through the process with DOD to receive that property. Then we turned that over to the city of Anniston for their maintenance years ago. But this is some of the same things that didn't get in agreement whenever we originally built the bypasses. The old 430, what I call old 431, from the Board of Education up to the new connector to the bypass around House of Chin and things of that nature. So it does have parts of, there's a part of the city of Anniston up to the trail, and then the rest of it's Calhoun County. So that is a section of road that is not a state route or a federal route. So our maintenance is not supporting that, and I wanted to make sure that was clear with everybody. And we're willing to give that to the city and the county.
Shannon, let me ask you one question. I was going to get this slide, but you're not talking about.
I didn't know I was making a presentation, by the way, so
you did. Will ALDOT consider resurfacing the connector prior to, if the city were to accept that? We talked about that earlier.
it's not within the budgets that I control, but I can request that.
In other words, that's a request of the city. Okay. Go ahead.
How much are we talking about? What's the?
Oh, I should have got your national links. I would say 1,000 foot thereabouts from the intersection of 21 to the trail that overpasses the connector. That would be the portion of the city, and then the rest of it is county.
So it looks like everything, as I'm looking at the map, it looks like everything to the northwest of the trail, the connector, State Route 1, that's what we're talking about, right?
To the, what I would call the southeast would be the city.
So from the southeast to 21 would be the city, and from to the northwest would be to the county.
That's correct. And then going up what was called Cutting Road, that is part of the county as well. That's not in
Right, and that's leading up to the Board of Education property there.
There is a connector there as well that goes back to J&D Boots used to do.
Right, that's sure all there.
This would also benefit one area where it would benefit the city is in its
designated a route that has to be controlled by the Highway Beautification Act, which means billboards would have to meet the criteria of aid advertising, outdoor advertising. The trail connecting around the bypass, but the bypass is a denied access facility.
Denied access, yes.
We couldn't allow pedestrians to cut through the fence and so on.
The alternative would have to be analyzed and planned.
Councilwoman, board discussion?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, we will move forward to item number 2, housekeeping reimbursement to Mr. Demetric for attending the summit. Any questions or concerns? That is on the consent agenda. Item number 3, two budget amendments. The first one is amending the FY25 budget to reflect donations within HARD. And the second one is amending the FY25 budget for year-end departmental transfers, increasing HARD use towards revenue and appropriations. Questions, concerns? All right, we will move forward to item number 4, authorizing disbursement from new business sales tax revenue education fund. Mr. Millie and Mr. Harrington, just so you guys are aware, we give 20% of new business sales tax to the school system. And I believe, per our resolution, they have to request those funds in written format, and it has to be specifically for, like, was it workforce development programs or educational programs? But they have to be for specific programs. And I think the last time we might have dispersed was probably 2 years ago or last year.
No, we just did it in November.
Oh, well, maybe a few months ago. So we do that periodically, but they have to submit a request in order to receive those funds.
Is that just done once a year, or is that per?
We send it monthly to them, let them know what's in there, and they'll just request it.
It's always for different things, there's typically for.
It's, for a resource,
Yeah, we have a resolution for it, and it specifically lists what it's for, and they have to, we can get that one, it's a resolution, we'll get that resolution for you both, just so you can have it.
It's a drop off somewhere, I'm sure it is.
The word we have to request it from.
Because those aren't in the supplemental funds we put within the budget, those are outside funds. And so part of transparency and accountability is requesting those funds. And what we talked about doing prior to now, what we got away from is we were supposed to be having quarterly meetings where we discuss how those funds were being used and how it was making an impact in students' lives. The last meeting we had with the school board was November 8, 2022.
That's what we're doing.
It would be nice to get an update on kind of this. Doesn't necessarily have to be quarterly, but
I would love to do that.
is that not part of the?
It's not a part of the actual, it's not.
Not a mandate for the utilizing accessing funds?
No, we just discussed this when we initially started the meeting. It was, in hopes that we could collaborate and work better together, and meeting quarterly and discussing how those funds would make an impact, but we could not reach a resolve on that, so.
So we reached a resolve, we said we was going to meet for what happened when we had a second meeting, right?
Yes.
When we had a second meeting, we was basically discussing the transparency of some funds that we were asking for. And particularly for, in this particular case, it was very vague. How 3K security is what they had, the security. And so in our questioning of what does security mean, we kind of, I guess the hair kind of went the wrong way and struck a nerve, and we ended up being yelled at that meeting. So that was a public meeting, we were also at the table, and we ended up having to reset. No, seriously. It got ugly.
The synopsis of that meeting in 2022, now this is 3 years later, so I'm not saying that it's the same temperature now, but at that point in 2022, it was a conversation of, you should just give us the money and not question how it's being used, and I did not agree with that.
Right, and they even mentioned, they even tried to say, well, do y'all do the same same for the museum board. And when he said that, I said, you know, the tree y'all want to walk up because the museum board is full of transparency. So, I mean, I think if we, I don't know what we're talking about, the transparency, I think we do need to start trying to meet again, set up the meeting with them in order. However, and it may not be their issue, it may not be because of them, but because of some past sins, past perceived sins by the school board. I'm not saying somebody did something, but the perception of somebody doing something, and the money not being with us, the general public not being able to follow the money, because money just poof. So we were asking for transparency on how we had. Y'all let us know what y'all want to use it for. And in that particular meeting, we said, hey, y'all got something y'all want to spend some money on. But I think it was, whatever it was, they were like, y'all got $500,000 worth of things y'all would like to see done. And y'all already have your own money allocated to that. Allocate those things to this money, and then you can use your money, whatever you want to.
And it was also a discussion of when we first met, is like, how can we sit down and collaborate and decide how can we work together to benefit the school system? If there's, for example, and this was the last conversation, we didn't need to have it with the entire board, this was not a public meeting. This is a public meeting for the school, but Dee Dee and I, Councilman Roberts and I just showed up to be a part of the conversation and the consolidation meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And there were only other two board members there. It was Ms. Harrington as well as John Frazier. And part of that discussion was, well, if you're talking about consolidating the school system, you know, what part does the city play in this? And so we've just not been able to have those conversations or be able to sit down and say, how can we work together to make a greater impact? But I think it's a goal. I think it's a goal that's not out of reach.
What really should happen, no agency, no matter who they are, if they get a government phone, they should be able to know where those dollars are going, no matter where they're going to.
I agree. I also would want to, I'm not going to hold money over the school's head, or these kids' heads, you know. It would be nice to know how our funds are being used to support the school system.
Let me also say for the record, we have never withheld funds.
No.
Outside of when, but I'm saying outside of when they were behind on audits,
Yeah.
and they were not submitting audits on time.
I don't apply that.
So that's the only time that we have ever said, and then I remember, I think that was 2020, they did not get funds. In 2021, we wound up giving them additional funds because, I could be wrong on the dates, the years, but we wound up giving additional funds from the time they missed because they had to catch up on their audits.
Right.
Now, I don't know if they're caught up completely now, but at the time, they were far behind. And I don't believe we still have yet to receive their audit from 2018, but that was also the year that they approached the council and explained that, you know, they were out of emergency funds. So a lot has transpired over the years, and I'm hoping that, you know, moving forward, we will be able to set a different precedent for this body and that body, where we can come together and say, what can we do to make a greater impact on these kids? But that requires being accountable for the funds, because that's not our money, it's not their money, it's the people's money. And if they come to us and say, how did you spend this $2.63? They have the right to know. So. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 5, Homeless Coalition. They're requesting that the City Council waive the rental fee for here at the Meeting Center for Project Homeless, which will be on October 22nd, 2025. I think the fee was like $500. And this is open to the public, correct, Ms. Bass?
Yes.
Are you guys okay with that?
What is the project?
It's located in your packet.
Sure.
Yes, sir. If you scroll down to item 5A, it gives you detail into what that is.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. Questions or concerns regarding that? In my amendment that I will bring forth to the council to change the budget, I'll have 3 changes. And what I just stated, the resolution or item F in the consent agenda will change, just pertaining to language. Adding an executive session, I will put a motion to adjourn into an executive session, which I will state the reasoning, as well as a resolution to the consent agenda authorizing Ms. Bass to execute a lease agreement between the city of Anniston and the FAA for the airport. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. All right, we'll move forward with a discussion from Councilmember Downing regarding the speed calming devices ordinance.
I emailed you all the original ordinance and the amended ordinance last week. If you all have had a chance to look at that, I would just like to start that process for having that ordinance amended. Take a look at it, it's everybody has ways with the language and to just make it a lot easier for us.
I appreciate everything you did on that, Lois, and
Well, David Arnett, and Brandon Cole did the work there. So I asked them for their opinions and for their evaluation, and that's what they're.
I need to study this a little bit more carefully. It seems to me like some of the authority is putting back on the council to make those calls as far as speeding, speeding devices. I don't know that that's really a good thing, because it's almost like it could be turned into favoritism.
We're not engineers.
And we're not engineers, and I mean.
No, we're not engineers. I mean, there would be an evaluation. You shouldn't just be following the advice of the evaluation. But we can absolutely, this is not a final draft at all.
Okay.
By any means.
I'm going to study it more.
Yeah, please.
On the first, go over with it, that appeared to me, it could be a problem,
Okay.
and maybe I'm wrong.
No, well, maybe not, but I mean, but that's what.
But I know everybody wants to speed, everybody wants one. And so, do we allow some to have, we agree, and then others not? And what's our criteria? I know you said based on the valuation, but I think we need to delve into that a little bit more. Before we.
I can see that because I have a neighborhood now that's flooded with all these cars eating, trying to get somewhere else, trying to go to these drivers. But in preparation for going to these routes, they're going through neighborhoods terrorizing. We got speed bumps on the Daniel Hill, and now they move from there. They're taking an alternate route when they're coming down Sampson, Duncan, coming down that one. So, one lady, she just, same day as an email, I was literally reading email, and she called complaining because the way she had to pull out of her driveway, depending on which way the cars coming, going down the hill, sometimes, she said she's almost got hit a couple of times because, and she has come, it's a hill, so she has to drive up, the driveway goes down, so she drives up, while she's trying to get into the street, she can hear the car coming and kind of peel out to get out of the way. So we'll definitely need to do traffic, a whole lot of study. We don't want to concern the favors.
No, I mean, that's just our job. That's just our job.
Right.
To not do that.
Right.
Yeah. That was big with Mr. O'Leary, that, because my first time asking for one, I had one of my customers on Zion Hill. They're coming off the hill is steep, the church is there, but there's a gentleman who has his little dog out there leaving himself, and they come out before he could get his dog, because there was no speed bump, they ran him over, and he was in trouble. I would not ask for it if it was not necessary. And if someone asks for one, it has to be, an actual need and not actual one.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
Yeah. Right. So we can make any kind of modification.
Yes,
Right.
make sure if we have any modifications, bring it to, we'll put on the work session, bring it to the work session first discuss, and then.
And then we can get on a meeting schedule.
Sir. All right, before we move to city manager updates, I just want to let you all know that I did receive, the paperwork, from the school, central office regarding utilizing the Anniston auditorium for our, student program. And so I have that paperwork, and just wanted to, before I filled it out, make sure you guys are okay with us utilizing the Anniston auditorium for the spring program. Okay, well, I will. Well, I will make sure that it is submitted, between the end of this week or the beginning of next week, so we'll have that solidified. All right, Ms. Bass, if you would like to move forward with your updates, if you have any.
No, Mayor, I have any updates for council.
All right, well, I think that is all.
Yeah, one thing,
Yes, sir.
back to the, budget amendment in PB. Now, I think that's the first time I've actually seen one of those, when they actually request that, it needs to be spelled out, and not just say, to cover cost as to what the actual cost will be.
For number, I mean, for item B, under budget amendment.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we, are they supposed to spell that out? when they
Did
actually
you
go-
report?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they should say what they are spending on, or what they can. You can say exactly what they need to spend on.
Okay. Let me ask this, is that a policy?
It's part of like public policy, right, Bruce? He's asking, do we have to explicitly state exactly what youth sports can spend the donations on in our budget amendment? Or is it policy for us that we have to do it?
Not donations, in the amendment of the budget itself, it asks for additional funds, and they just give a blanket statement, it should be spelled out as to what those funds are requested for, rather than just give a blanket statement.
Right, but
We
this
have-
one is just transfers. This one is just transfers outside of donations. We're just transferring money that's already been allocated. We're just transferring from a department to another department.
But if any department did that, they would be required to spell out what the funds are requested.
We would budget for a specific purpose.
Let's say if we're moving from, youth services and part to their parks maintenance department. Should the amendment say specifically every single thing what they're moving it for?
Not like item by item, categorically. Yes. So, we could do that.
Yeah, I think that's how I had it listed as the category, right, where we're moving from to. Does it not say description of why we're moving?
It says what they're requesting, but not as to why.
So, I mean, if it's normal expense, so we're taking money and giving it to the youth sports program, correct?
Like,
Transfer.
from one department,
So we have, funds are transferring to youth sports programs. Then the money that's transferred to that department can be used for normal department expenditures.
And are we required to say why we're moving that to them?
Not why, but just what is actually is utilized for.
Like, do we have to say to buy baseball uniforms or to, No, I don't think we have to do it with that specificity. Now, you may, as a council member, want to know before you transfer, you're entitled to know. Why do y'all need more money? But once the money is, now if you transferred it to youth sports and they spend it on something that isn't the normal course of administering that program, that would be a different issue. You don't have
have to specify X amount we're gonna pay referees, and Y amount we're gonna buy jerseys, and, you don't have to specify. But you can certainly are entitled to ask, why is there shortfall, what do you need money for? And you could put that restriction on it if you wanted to.
But now, one of the things I recall is that on those donations, they go to, it says, Meeting Center, they spell out everything, literally everything that they actually requested those funds for. That's the reason I was asking that.
I think there's the difference is donations and transfers.
Those donations may have been for a specific purpose.
Correct.
So then we would just be honoring the donor's intent there, which is, okay, this money was given to do this, and so it has to be used for this. But just like with the city manager's office, or finance department, or any of, you make allocations for categories, and then, because it's not feasible to literally approve every single, item. They have to have some discretion in how they expend funds, but that doesn't mean you can't get information that you need to understand why do they need more money and what is it going to be used for. And if you wanted to, you could say, we're going to transfer this money for this specific purpose. And you could tie it up if you wanted to, but it's not necessary, as long as it's normal expense, the normal administrative expense.
Can I put that two questions on that? Is this a